up, growers? Welcome to Chalk Talk episode 3. In this episode, we're going to be talking about everything to get started in your grow. If you want to go big with a perpetual grow, or you're just trying to get a budget grow going and just get your foot in the door, do your research. Like I said, go back and check my last episode out. If you're new to the research, pick some of those content creators out and use them to your advantage. And there's so much good research and knowledge on the internet, and go seek and find it, and I will always help you find that. That's all this channel is, especially the Chalk Talk, is for beginner growers, to help them skip steps and bridge that gap to an easy, successful grow right off the rip. No struggling, just getting in there, getting the good equipment, and crushing your grows. So that's what I'm going to do here, and that's what we're going to talk about in this episode. So AC Infinity, Spider Farmer, and Vivo Sun. I have these on the board because those are the three that I run with, have always run with. So Spider Farmer has always run my lights. AC Infinity has always run my environment and my tent game. And Vivo Sun was actually the first tent I bought, so I'm very loyal to them, and they actually reached out and sent me a whole 4x4 kit, so I'm very blessed for that. And so I just want to show you guys kind of maybe how I do things in my garden, and how maybe you could do things a little bit different, and maybe just skip a few steps here. So with these companies, they all have everything you need to fulfill your grow, from lights to heating to tents to exhaust systems, and you can mix and match, and that's what I did. I love Spider Farmer lights, but I love AC Infinity's controller game, and I love that Vivo Sun's taking the step in the right direction to get you the automated systems and good tents and good lights. So I recently just started using their lights and their tents. Like I said, I first used Vivo Sun way back in the day, and then that was my 3x3 tent that I featured on Instagram. And I'm just moving on to bigger things right now, which is so awesome to be a part of it and to be able to help you guys and get these sponsors, so it can help me help you guys more and have more time to do it for you guys. So I'll shut up now. But anyways, getting started. Pick one of these. You don't have to. Mars Hydro, Gorilla Grow Tent, there's plenty of good ones out there. You don't necessarily have to use these. This is just what works in my garden and I can stand behind. So when you're getting into it, you're going to want to think about, are you going into a grow room, or are you going to try to pick one of these tents? And there may be one or a few tents that I missed out on, but these are the main ones, and I think that you can't go wrong with any of these tents. You just got to think about, are you just trying to grow and dry in the same tent? Because if you're going to grow and dry in the same tent, I think that you need to get into the 4x4 range and down, because these plants are going to get massive, and when you hang them upside down to dry and you're using the same tent to grow and dry in, a little bit more space is going to be better for you in the long run. But you can get away with it in a 2x2. You could seedling, grow, and dry in that same tent, and if that's what you got to do, that's what you got to do. I think getting into growing is all that matters at this point. If you can only get a 2x2 tent with a light and a fan, and that's all you can do, we can make it work. It's all about your nutrition and your environment. So we get your nutrition and your environment on point. It don't matter how big a tent you are, you can get beautiful, healthy flowers to help you and your family with whatever you use the medicinal plant for. So when you're thinking about going with one of these size tents, you're going to think about, the tent is the cheaper part of it. You're going to talk about furnishing it. So the bigger you go, the bigger light you're going to need, the more fans you're going to need, the more exhaust and humidity you're going to need. So with four main things, I feel like when it comes to environment, is you're going to be your AC, your heat, your exhaust, moving that air around like your fans and your intakes and outtakes, and then controlling that humidity, because when you're growing plants, any type of plants, VPD, or the vapor pressure deficit, that temperature and humidity range is very, very crucial for certain stages. You want a higher temperature and humidity in seedling, and then you want a decent temperature in veg, and then a decently high humidity, like 70%. And then when you get into flower, you're going to be able to want to control that and drop that humidity as the weeks go on to prevent any issues later on. Because when you're growing big flowers and you're shooting up 65-75% humidity and you don't have the right environment, you're going to set yourself up for success. So if it's something you learned from me, just know that when I say environment is everything and your nutrition is everything, I stand by that, and I firmly believe that. So when you're thinking about these right here, you're going to want to think about, are you in a basement? Are you upstairs on a south-facing room? Because that has everything to do with it. When I first started, I was in a basement, and then when I moved over here to Michigan, I was on a south-facing building of the room, and I could not control my humidity. It didn't matter in my tent, my AC Infinity, nothing. I could not control it. It was shooting over 100 degrees Fahrenheit. I couldn't keep the humidity up, so we moved down here in the basement. So think about that. So if you're upstairs, you may need to think about more AC air conditioning. But if you're in a basement, you may have to think about more heat, because it's not going to have the same influence with the season change that an upstairs building or grow would have. So think about that when you're thinking about your environment. Let's just go ahead and talk about what I have done. So my old garden, I had a 2x2x4. This is for my seedling in my mom tent. We're talking perpetual grow right now. You don't have to have a perpetual grow, but if you can, I really suggest that, just because you're going to be able to get the yields consistently that you want. You're going to be able to play around with training, crop steering, all sorts of fun things that you get to do in the garden when you're not stressing about getting your harvest. So perpetual grow is a way to do that, because you always got something in seedling and veg, flower, and you got something drying. So there's always that rotation pattern that we're looking for. And with these, you can achieve that. So that's, like I said, this is going to be our seedling and mom tent. We also have a propagation kit that we're going to be running seedlings in as well. So until I get a mom plant and start breeding, this one's really not necessary. You can get away with your seedling stage in a small propagation kit. I have an AC Infinity one. It actually stands up and lays down, and it's got a rack in it. It's really cool. You can get away with one fan in there. You don't really necessarily need an intake and an outtake. As long as you have maybe a vent cracked and you got good humidity and good lighting in there, you're good. You could get away with a fan, like I said, and just a little 100-watt light, or even less. You could just use a simple small bar lighting with a few watts in it. So now I had two 5x5 tents, which I was running. One was in veg, and then one would get into flower. So that was my veg and flower tent. And then I also had a 3x3 tent that was kind of in between of those stages. So if one was in veg in my 5x5 and one was in flower, this one may be in the beginning of veg or in the middle of veg. So I got different cycles going on, different harvest periods, and I'm able to control that. So the 8x4 is my dry tent. The reason I have such a big tent is because if you're going to start this perpetual grow, you're going to think about the big plants that are going to grow, and you're going to want to have room and spacing in there. Maybe you want to put your jars in there. Maybe you just use it for some storage at this point. But I highly recommend a bigger tent for drying. It's just going to save you in the long run getting in there. I hang my whole plant. It may be different for you that you hang individual branches, so you may be able to get away with a smaller one. So my new grow is about the same. I got the 2x2x4 tent and clone, or mom tent and clone tent, propagation, that's our seedling, and now I have a new 8x8 tent, which I'm really excited, from AC Infinity. I'm very happy to be running with them. If you haven't seen it on YouTube, go check it out. Go check out my Instagram, Cannabis Luke. I just put in the other 3x3 bed in there, so we're gonna have 140 gallons of soil in there, plus another 25 gallons of soil with a new tray to grow from Autopot USA. So there's so many ways you can go about growing, auto watering systems, just bigger beds, any way you want to go about it. I do preach the bigger beds. It's just something that with crazy lifestyles can make you have success and step back and not have to do as much pHing, watering, and feeding, and so on and so forth. So I got the 8x8 tent, and then we have two 4x4 tents here that we're going to be alternating. One will be in veg, one will be in flower, or vice versa. Just getting that perpetual grow going, like I said. And then we have the 8x4 to dry as well. So when you're thinking about how you want to grow, think about the future. There's so many ways to go about it. If you can afford a little bit more expensive tent but can't afford the nice fancy lighting for it, that's okay. You can have the big tent with a smaller lighting. You don't have to fill it all the way out, but when you're ready for that next light, you're not buying a new tent on top of that. So that's something I wish I would have done. Instead of buying the 3x3 tent, I wish I would have bought the 5x5 right off the rip and just used the smaller lighting for the time being until I could afford a new one, or maybe even get sponsored, because I promise you, if you follow these methods, the organic methods, the good companies, you're going to be able to get sponsors because they want to shine, they want you to shine, and they're going to work with you. It's a new age, new era, that the cannabis education's on a whole new level, and there's so many competing products out there, and that's why I represent multiple different companies, because I think that they all work. I don't think it has anything necessarily to do with their lights and their tents, because it's such a new age and everybody has that new technology. They're always trying to one up each other, especially in the home growing game, because we're all stoners. We're not about the clout, like I say a lot. We want good material that we're gonna buy that's gonna last us for a long time. Like my Spider Farmer lights, I've had them for 4 years now, or 3 years. Sorry, we're coming up on 4 years, and I love them. And so when we're growing, this is what you're going to worry about is your environment. You're going to think about your tent size. We're not even going to really dive into lighting in this episode. We'll do a whole episode on lighting and how you want to go about it, and if you're trying to get big, massive yields, and just what your game is, because everybody's grow is going to be different, and that's why I want to show you that you can grow in a basement, you can grow in a room, you can grow in a tent, big tents, small tents, Vivo-Sun, Spider Farmer. This is all going to change whether on how you want to go about it, and I'm just trying to bridge that gap and help the new growers. So if you're a new grower and you're confused a little bit about what I'm saying here, because I'm new teaching you guys, and I just felt like it's something that I've always wanted to do, is to spread good love and knowledge, and I've had a lot of success in this. I want you guys to be able to skip some steps and punch through that ceiling and just shed nothing but light and happiness. And with this grow system, I do think that you can have very, very good success with your perpetual grow. If you can't do a perpetual grow, think about one of these tents here. So if you want to get a 3x3, you only need one fan in there, maybe an exhaust. Leave your tent cracked if you need to get the intake and outtake, and get a little humidity in there. There's AC Infinity has a T3, a T5, a T7, and there's just different liters, different sizes that you can use. If you're going to be away for a little bit, get a bigger one. If you're going to be able to fill it up every day or have a spouse or a friend that can help you, you can get a smaller one. They're very cheap. Code Cantaloupe will save you off at each one of these companies. And that's pretty much it, Gromies. I don't want to go too far ahead on you. I want to keep you focused and keep you thinking about these things. Do your research. Think about how you want to grow, what kind of room you want to grow. Think about how you're going to control this to control that VPD. Okay, that's very important. Your VPD, your vapor pressure deficit, that's going to be your temp and your relative humidity. These two equations is going to give you your VPD. If you can maintain that in any size of these tents, you're going to crush it, especially if your nutrients are on point, and that's all that's going to matter here. So I'm going to draw a quick picture of kind of just how a tent should really look. Like I said, this is for new growers. If you don't know much about it, it took me a while to understand everything, and then it kind of all just common sense and breaks down. So we got a pot here. I'm no artist. Let's just say you got your lights here. All right, so you're going to want to think about fresh air coming in. So I like to put an intake in here to bring in that fresh air, and then we're going to have an outtake here taking out the bad air. So these are just little fans, exhaust fans that you can get, different sizes. They have 3-inch, 4-inch, 6-inch, 8-inch. I mean, different types of sizes for the size of tent. Now with the smaller tent, say like a 2x2 or a 3x3, I don't think you need to have both. I think that you could get away with one or the other. I would recommend having an outtake. So maybe you leave this vent open, and that's the cool thing about tents is they have a bunch of different ductings that's going to come in here and allow you to put different pieces or whatever you want. So we'll just leave this ducting open. We'll leave this open. We'll get rid of this. So we only got one outtake. That's going to save you a little bit of money there. So you're pulling this air from outside the tent, in the tent, out of the tent, because if these are open, it's going to be able to get new air, new CO2. And in a 3x3 or a 2x2 tent, I think you can get away with one oscillating fan at canopy level, blowing around, blowing underneath your canopy, getting the fresh air moving around. You want this kind of cycle, you know what I mean? So in and out, moving around, fresh air. So once you get in a bigger tent, like a 4x4 and up, you're going to want to have another fan in here. That way you have air moving here and around here, because you're in the bigger tent, you're going to have bigger canopies. You're not going to have a lot of fresh air coming in as much because you've got this big canopy. So now we're talking about bringing that intake back into the equation, okay? So this is what I would recommend. Think about how you want to go about it. If you're going to go in a 2x2 or 3x3, get one fan, get one intake or outtake, and you're going to be good. If you're going 4x4 or up, get two fans, intake and outtake, and that's going to be able to control everything you need in your garden and control this VPD. Because you control this VPD, like I said time and time again, you're going to crush it. Your plants, tomatoes are going to open up. They're going to be able to search the nutrients more readily available. They're not worried about what's going on upstairs. They're worried about the soil, building new plants, new flowers, just moving forward. We don't want to go backwards, and that's what my grow is all about, is moving forward, no deficiencies, keeping the environment on point, keeping your moisture on point. And if you can control humidity, your water game's going to be able to go on a whole new level, because if you have the right humidity in there, they're not going to be sucking the moisture from your roots, from your plants, to where you have to pump pump more humidity and water constantly because it's so dry in there. Because if you're over in like Nevada where it's very dry, humidity is going to be an issue. So you're going to want to keep the humidity up and then keep the moisture up. You're going to be able to water more when it's drier. So it all comes together as one, and that's what we're going to talk about, is just how everything works together. Not one thing's going to change your garden. So I'll let you go, Gromies. Just kind of stew on this for a little bit. Go back, do your research, kind of make a little chart. You know, do I want a 3x3? This is how I could go. How much is this going to cost? Oh, maybe I want a 5x5. How much is this going to cost? And then weigh the options and just maybe reach out to me and maybe I can talk you through it, because I am not trying to make money off you. I don't care if you buy a 2x2 or a 10x10. I just want you to have successful grows and not go into debt do so, because that can be something that growers do these days. And I even myself found myself getting in trouble, was just swiping a card because you wanted it and you needed it, but you didn't really need it at the end of the day. You thought you did. So stick to a recipe, stick to my recipe, stick to Mr. Grower's recipe. I don't care if it's a good recipe and it works for them and it works for you. I am all about it, and that's all I want to do, is share love, share knowledge, and show you what works in my garden. So think about all this, Gromies. We're going to be coming back in episode 4. We're going to be talking about some nutrition, and we're going to be talking about lighting. So we're going to start filling this tent with some flowers, and we're going to get our light in there. And we'll go back over our environment and talk about it again, and why this is so crucial to maintain throughout your whole grow, from germination all the way to harvest. So I'll let you go, Gromies. Much love. Stay tuned for more, and I'll see you on the next one.